All right, my name is David Armstrong. I teach at Las Animas High School in Las Animas, Colorado, and I teach 9th, 10th, and 11th grade English. Making the moment is getting that like aha flash on top of their head. You know, they get the light bulb and it finally goes off. Or even today, you know, one of my students said, wow, that makes me want to read this story, just by leaving out a little bit, just by trying to kind of spur in that a little bit of intellectual thought is a great highlight. In our district, it's been particularly difficult. We've had teachers do a number of things. We've had teachers be riffed, we've had teachers leave, we've had teachers even pass away, and we've not filled those classrooms. The classroom right across the hall from me used to host a chemistry lab and physics lab, and that teacher, my first year teaching, I believe, first or second, he passed away in the middle of the school year. And since then, we have not filled that classroom. It's been empty. It's been a spare classroom since. Staffing here at the high school has been sparse. Been a little difficult to get coverage for things like this. You know, if you needed to pull me out to interview me at a separate time, it'd be difficult to find a teacher that could come in and cover for that hour because everybody's doing 9 million things. You know, I'm no different. I teach, I coach, I'm a class sponsor. On Tuesdays, most of our advisories do a nutrition lesson, which I have to prepare for because I teach English. So we're kind of pressed for time, everybody around the board.
Has your classes gotten bigger?
Our class sizes luckily have stayed relatively the same. Regardless of how many teachers we have, we still have to have all the kids in a lot of classes, well, in a bunch of different classes at the same time. My class sizes range from, well, you saw my smallest today, 11, all the way up to 20. And so that's not bad at all. It's totally manageable. But if we continue to cut, we can see those increase. But with a smaller district like this, numbers are kind of secondary. If our class sizes, if my biggest went from 20 to 24 or 25, I would see like the class groupings being a more difficult thing to manage. Especially, you know, our classroom sizes are only so big. I'd be, you know, pushing out to the walls to try and get those groups in together. That'd be one thing. Management with bigger classes, it's always tougher to, you know, figure out who can sit with whom and not be a behavior problem, and who can sit with whom and be a behavior problem. So that's difficult. I actually have that problem with one of my classes right now of 17, but that's just, you know, that's just the makeup of some classes, you know, and as all teachers deal with that. So that would be one thing, and then just like the management I already talked about, but preparation for that class, I would have to make sure that there would be no downtime whatsoever, because any downtime with that many kids in a class, and teachers in bigger districts can attest to that, any downtime is just an opportunity for an explosion of conversation that is not classroom related.
What's kind of been the anxiety level here in the building as they put out these budget figures?
Same as it has been the last 4 or 5 years here. Before that, it was, you know, for our district, it was, are we going to be on a 4-day week or a 5-day week the next year? So it's anxiety of, what are we going to do? You know, some teachers, some first-year teachers are still wondering, am I going to have a job? I'm wondering, what am I going to do next? What am I going to be doing next year in this district? Am I going to be teaching all 9th through 12th grade English? Am I going to have to, you know, beef up on my British literature? Am I going to be teaching a middle school class? Am I going to have to brush up on some middle school teaching strategies? So it's a matter of strategy for veteran teachers, whereas for younger teachers, it's a matter of, am I going to be here? Am I going to have a job?
How are kids impacted when they hear about, you know, budget cuts and all this news? What kind of perception do they have of that?
You know, in our community, it's kind of tough, because I don't think a good portion of our students have a good concept of how to take care of money, or what a good amount of money is. You know, every once in a while, my students will ask me, well, how much do you pay for my master's classes? And I'll tell them, you know, roughly $1,400 for a class. Wow, that's a lot. It is a lot, but they, you know, in the grand scheme of things, when I paid $14,000 a semester for my undergrad, it's really not that bad. So they don't have a big concept of how much, $252 million is going to affect the entire state. They know that if we cut $1 million, that's going to hurt our teachers and we aren't going to have as many people around, but they think that, they can break more rules that way.
They only work 9 months out of the year. They don't even have to do a good job because it's impossible to fire a teacher. What do you think when you hear stuff like that?
I think the people making those comments need to step in a classroom for about a month and a half and see what happens. I will gladly trade jobs with somebody who thinks that for that month and a half. They can teach my kids, and I will be more than happy to learn their job.
What do you think they would learn?
I think they'd learn that 9 months is 9 months of just absolute, well, not insanity, but absolute hard work, brains to the wall, working your tail off to make sure that you're giving your best to those kids 7-8 hours a day, depending on planning periods, of course. And then even more than that, because on that plan period, you're still working and planning and making sure you have everything ready to go for that next day. It's not like we teachers go home and then our job stays at work. When we leave, we are still Mr. Armstrong, even if we're at a restaurant. We're still Mr. Armstrong. We still uphold that idea of I am a teacher in this community. There is no comparison. Teaching is a lifestyle. It's not a job. I come in every morning at 6:30. It's quiet. I get my day started. I go. After school, I go to track practice because I'm an assistant coach. I get home at 6:30. So that's a 6:30 to 6:30 day. That's a 12-hour day. Then I've got papers to grade, plans to make for the next day, any preparation that may need to be done. And then, I can go out. In fact, yesterday on my way back from class, I was in Pueblo, stopped to get gas, saw some people from the community, and they didn't say, "Hey, Dave." They said, "Hey, Mr. Armstrong, how's it going?" So even from here to Pueblo, which is an 80-mile range, I'm not known as Dave. I'm known as Mr. Armstrong. So it's a little different than having a personal life and having a professional life. The two combine very well. It's just life. I'm a little worried, yes. Just as far as numbers go, it'll be difficult. Our football team fielded barely enough to keep their 11-man schedule going. Our wrestling team only had 4 or 5 kids go to regionals because of grades and because of participation. Our track team actually boosted in numbers from last year. We actually doubled our team. We're sitting at about 20, 25 right now, as opposed to last year we had 11 or 12. So, that's nice, but I am worried about our athletics.
What happens to kids if athletics are the thing that has to be on the top of the block?
It hurts them. There are a good number of our students in this school that are only here because of athletics. Athletics keeps kids in school. It's not just an extracurricular to some, it's life to some. And being able to be a part of that life keeps their grades to a point that they can still participate. I've got kids in my classes right now that wouldn't be eligible if it wasn't for athletics.